Hi, this week on Reaper Live, we're going to talk miniature scale. We're going to answer viewer questions, and we're going to take a quick spotlight tour of the factory. What do you think about that?
Good. That's awesome. Justin's going to tell us how he became a felon.
This week on Reaper Live. Hi, I'm Ron Hawkins, art director here at Reaper Miniatures.
And Pugh, president.
Welcome to Reaper Live, the show where we blend gaming, painting, and nerd culture all together for your viewing pleasure. We're joined today by our producer, Michael Collins, technical director, Justin Elliott. Say hello, boys.
Hey.
Hello. And today, Ed, we're going to do a lot of fun things, like we said. But before we get started, I'm going to tell you, I'm painting my Cobra today.
Oh, God. What happened to the ogres?
They're in hiatus for now. They're in the timeout corner, so we're going to move on to something.
There's a 3-year
so
project.
I'm going to try to paint a Cobra. What are you going to work on?
I'm working on some Games Workshop Tau. These are the Tau because Justin can't seem to finish his army. So he's pushed it on me. I mean, it was a guilt trip, I got to tell you.
You're a savior.
So, I am.
So I see here on our table we have looks like a Napoleonic thingamajigger. What is that?
Yes.
What are we looking at? What is that?
What we have here is a French grenadier from the Napoleonic times. And scale is determined by us, or is in general, from the eyes to the bottom of the feet, or what we call heel to eyes. Those are used because no matter however the model is sculpted, you should generally always be able to see where the eyes are and where the feet are. In this particular case, he's got his bearskin shako. We have no idea where the top of his head is, but we know where his eyes are. He is a 54 millimeter. So what that means compared to a 25 millimeter is simply, we're going to say in the scale at 25 millimeter, that equals 5 feet. So when I want to do a human of average size, and this comes in later, you'll be tested, that'll be 5 feet from the heel to the eyes. In his particular case, since he's a 54, that's the scale we're working with. From his heels to his eyes, we'll measure 54 millimeters. Okay? Now, so let's move on to the 25 millimeter. Get rid of this guy.
What you got there?
I've got 2 skeletons. The one on your left, the viewer, is a Julie Guthrie Raupartha skeleton. It measures 25 millimeters from the bottom of its feet to its eyes. The one on the right is a Reaper skeleton that measures from the bottom of the feet to the eyes 28 millimeter. All we've done is just increase the scale slightly, the scale measurement we want to use. We've changed our constant. This, for us, made a larger, better looking figure, and that's what the difference between a 25 millimeter and a 28 millimeter would be illustrated like this.
It's easier to paint too.
Yes, definitely easier to paint, easier for the detail. We just applied 5 feet equals 28 millimeters as opposed to 5 feet equals 25 millimeters. Now, let's see, we've got that, and then now what we have left before we continue on here is this last part. For those that are paying attention, we have.
Did you say something?
No.
Okay.
I'm a man of few words. So, what we have here is our Sophie model, and in this particular case, she's 72 millimeters. Here she is at 28. This particular frost giant, cloud giant, is actually still a 28 millimeter model. Even though she's the same size as this one, she's 28 because that's her scale in the game in real life, for lack of a better. It's not real life, but in the game. So she's 35, 40 feet, however tall the cloud giant is. So in her case, we would still call her a 28 millimeter model.
28 millimeter scale model.
Scale model.
Gotcha.
Okay, so this would be a 72 scale only because it is a 5-foot person now, for 72 millimeters tall. So we've got that.
Or she could be a 28 millimeter giant demon girl.
Yes,
Okay.
Yes, exactly. So now another major aspect to the scale discussion is proportions. And Ron, the art director at Reaper, has a lot to say about proportions.
Not a lot. The scale, even though the scale will be the same, proportions do change. So, for example, some sculptors, some artists like to design figures at, say, 7 heads high, whereas a lot of the Reaper figures are designed at, say, 6 heads high. Give or take a half head here or there. So, even though a figure may be the same height, the same scale, they'll look different because their proportions are different. So, for example, I know.
But it alters their presentation, their overall appearance.
And it's just a design thing. It's
style.
It's art. It's all subjective, right? So, for example, we have a dark sword mini here, okay, and then we have one of our classic Julie Guthrie wizards here, and you can see they're the same scale. They're the same size figures. I mean,
From the feet to the eyes.
The base is kind of throwing the picture off, but it's the same scale, same size figures. But if you look at the proportions, the Dark Sword Mini is probably closer to a 7-head high figure, whereas the Tox figure is going to be more of a 6-head high figure. So his proportions are just a little different.
And 7 heads is a real human.
Real human, yeah,
Right.
real human.
So when we go to 6 heads, you get
A little more deformed.
stockier.
Yeah. If you look at the hands on these two, and it's hard to tell from the image, but Tox's hands are huge. They look like baseball gloves. Whereas the barbarian Amazon from Dark Sword, her hands are actually very delicate and very realistic. If you blew these two figures up to life size, she would look like a pretty close to a normal human as far as proportion and size goes. Whereas Tox would look like a circus clown. With,
He would.
You know,
In fact,
big
there's a
head
picture of him blown up on an old a painting guide from
Yeah.
years ago, and his hand looks like little pepperoni sausages.
Yeah, it
You
looks
know,
like
when it's blown
sausages. I
way
mean, no
up.
offense, Julie. You know, don't come and kill me, but
Too late.
It's just what you have to do. You have to exaggerate some of the details to get them to make good paintable figures. Not to say that the Dark Sword Mini in this example is not a good paintable figure. It's just a stylistic thing. It's the style we've chosen to go with the more exaggerated, chunky. Not even chunky, just a little more exaggerated, a little more, just a little bigger. You know, it's easier to paint, easier to sculpt out here, and just a little more fun looking stuff. But to each his own. You know, different manufacturers do it different ways. Different painters like to paint different ways. A lot of different sculptors, they like to sculpt their own different ways. So, and again, and so let's talk about even within a scale, you can have variations. So I'll take these two guys off. All right, so for this next part is where we talk about heroic scale and what that means. So let's put up some figures here that sort of illustrate, heroic scale. What do you got? What do you got here?
What we have here, this is now, let's go back a step
Hey,
here.
watch this. Watch this.
He did it, finally.
Product
Yes.
product placement.
It turns around backwards.
Because the stupid the stupid lid's on the wrong side.
So,
Anyway,
now back to business.
back to business.
Yeah, right. 1994. We were going to the Gamma Trade Show to release the Dark Heaven line in New
What
Orleans.
city was that in? Oh,
New Orleans. Yes. Okay, so what we did was we had it all blistered up or ready to go. And because we had chosen the style of a 28 millimeter versus a 25, that's what I was telling everybody. That's what our literature said. And so as I would be talking to stores or the various vendors, by the way, the Gamma Trade Show is that. We don't really deal with consumers of the show at a Gamma show. It is simply the distributors, the retails, the mailer, all of the various stockists. So as we're talking to them, and I'm doing my shameless plugs and being my pitch man, I keep telling them, oh, it's a new 28 millimeter fantasy line. And I'm just immediately met with, well, we only do 25. We don't want to have service 2 scales in our store. We don't want anything to do with it. So we're going to pass. And that just wasn't going to work. So it was very frustrating, obviously. So at lunchtime, I was out with Jack Van Shake from Rafa Miniatures, and we were eating lunch, and we were having a discussion, and I'm just going through this whole thing, and I'm like, well, we chose 28 because we wanted to have heroes, and all of this, we're not just all the same people that just get out of the factory, go home, change into our armor, and head to the dungeon, okay? So as I was going along, I stumbled across, I said, well, then, the hero, I kept using the word hero, and so I decided, well, we'll just call it 25 millimeter heroic scale. And that term is now, I don't know, it's used all different ways to mean all different things. But this is how we intended it at that time. And this is what we were executing, is that when you look at, this would be where the graphic, right?
Yeah, so we have a picture here in real life of Arnold Schwarzenegger, Wilt Chamberlain, and Andre the Giant. Right.
Now, these 3 men are obviously heroic size, heroic scale, but they're all 3 humans, but they're obviously different heights. So that for us is what heroic scale meant. This particular, now while these are all 28 millimeter scale
models,
heel to eye would be what we're building on. And this particular model, Logar, if you need a short, mean, I'm wearing an executioner, wielding a double axe, and I've got no room for you in my life person, that's what your player character is going to be. A nice little short stocky, I get into it and I'm swinging away. So he actually measures to his eyes only 22 millimeters, which represents that he's going to be shorter, like about a 5 foot tall as opposed to a 6 foot tall or something. Okay. Next to here would have been our barbarian figure. This is more representational of, well, this is our average human height. He would hit heel to eye 28 millimeters. Then we have 2073 over here, the Barbarian. This was actually at one time Reaper. This is John from Talon Games. This is a figure based on him.
It's his character.
He's a very tall person. This is him in 25 millimeter or 25 millimeter heroic scale.
And if you ever met John in person, you'd see why.
You don't. Yeah, he's very tall.
Size.
So for us, this is what heroic scale meant. Simply the fact that we wanted to be able to represent the world more like what the real world was. And the real world is not everybody has exactly 5 feet between their heel and their eyes. Now, that said, you have the ability to apply scale, though, to weapons and things of this nature. You don't really have things that are going to be heroic scale. If it's some fixed item, like a musket or something there that's a manufactured item, well, it is what it is. It is its scale. So
if you took a musket and you put it on an actual scale musket and you attach it to a figure and then you shrink that guy down to a gaming size figure, what would that musket look like?
Oh, in 15 millimeter. In fact, for a Napoleonic, we can get rid of these, put our original guy back.
Okay.
In Napoleonic scale, he's holding a Charvel. It would, if that was now shrunk down to 15 millimeter as the scale base, that would be a sewing needle, which is not practical to cast for production and would not last very long on the gaming table. So in turn, you're going to scale the guns up in that particular case just for production purposes. It has nothing to do with the model. And that's really a big difference here. When it comes to gaming figures, you're really designing them to be robust, to survive constant handling, constant maneuvering on the table, storage, transport,
packaging
this, that, and
when
the
you
other.
ship it from a producer to the consumer to the store.
So when you're going to make a display model like this guy would be, okay, it's much easier to go ahead and be expected to make his particular musket to scale or whatever pieces you're dealing with. So that also comes into the play in the scale discussion. And so if you're to make sure you're talking apples to apples, is it a display piece? Is it a game piece? What are the constants being used? All of these factors should get in, and you'll find that they all work together.
Yeah.
So that's it for scale. That's pretty much how we treat it around
in
here.
a nutshell, I mean, you people can go on and on and on about it, but that's kind of the way we do it, and it's why we do it that way. So
it's everyone's favorite time of the show. Can you guys guess what that is?
Snack time, nap time,
Definitely nap time. Everyone just go ahead and shut the
Prison
off.
choice time.
Go to sleep.
milk time.
No, it's time for questions, Ron.
Oh, okay. Hey, let's do that. It's time
We've
for
done like 5 of these. You should know
question of the week. What's the question of the week this week?
this. We still don't have a graphic.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I don't know, last week's was pretty great. I think people liked it.
How about we just pretend it's
And if we need a suggestion for questions, just email Justin direct, or just email what is it?
reaperlive at reapermini.com.
Okay.
Reaperlive at reapermini.com. It's here. Ding.
Yes.
Right there.
And
Or
ask Justin
ding down here. I'm not sure.
what he did this weekend.
Oh, don't do that.
Yes, because it's awesome. He takes a cop out. I mean, it's all over the news. Well, maybe it's not that
literally a
exaggerated.
cop out. He literally means a cop out.
Yeah, yeah.
How about the question of the week?
Oh well.
Let's just
Yeah, let's
straight
go back
the question of the
to
week.
business at hand.
Reaperlive at
Yes.
reapermini.com. That's where you send your questions.
reapermini.com,
Send us some
people.
questions.
Please send us your questions.
send us your questions.
I mean, we
We'd
have
love
some
to-
really cool stuff to win. Don't you guys like all this stuff we have in the background here?
Yeah.
I mean, some of that's not really going to be given away, but
You
I mean,
can tell it's November because we have fall things. Look, we have a Horn of Plenty / cornucopia.
There's another shameless
It's
plug.
November.
of paint and bones.
And who
Paint
decorated
bones.
all this? Who's responsible
what?
for the rotation of the decoration?
Maybe we'll get.
Go ahead, say it.
That would be myself.
Okay.
Aha.
Anyway,
Yes.
so let's move on here. Question of the week, guys. You actually ready for this? Are you in the mindset to answer a hard hitting question?
I am.
I'm going to let Ann answer this. I don't know what it is. I'm going to let Ann answer it.
There's so much depth to this.
Okay.
Oh no. We're not doing no. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
With the price of 3D printers, one might say this has an extra dimension of depth. Becoming more obtainable for the casual gamer, how does Reaper plan on adjusting to the purchase and print customer? Now, this question comes from Michaela Shadle.
Okay.
So Michaela Shadle, that is the question of the week. Michaela is going to win a prize.
You want to tell her the prize or answer
What
the
is this
question?
prize, Ron?
The prize is going to be a bottle of water. No, we don't have our prizes here. I'm sorry. We didn't.
They're right
we
there.
Didn't, no,
Just
what?
grab one right there. Take your choice.
No. You're going to win a Shub Niggeroth and a Mystic Circle by Kevin Williams. Same as last week. Same great prize. What's wrong with that? That's a great prize. What's the
What are you
face
trying to
for?
say? We got a bunch to get rid of?
No. Not even out yet. You're going to get it before it's even out. Brand new. Just got packaged. You're going
I
to get
bet
it.
she would rather have bones paint.
You know what? Guess what?
She's going to get some of that too?
Bones paint too. Yeah, whatever.
Wow, this
Yeah,
really
sure.
is. These prizes are getting bigger and bigger.
We'll just, why
People
not?
are getting more and more
sure.
jealous.
So you're going to win a Shub Niggurath and a Mystic Circle and some Bones paint to be determined.
No, it'd be those sets right there.
Now, we've just been avoiding her question. I'm Michaela? I'm sorry.
Michaela.
Michaela? We've been avoiding Michaela's question, he or she, I'm not sure. Let's answer the question. How is Reaper going to face the future with digital printers becoming
Yes, he's going to push this on
more
me.
and more affordable?
Okay. Nothing.
Good answer. All
Yeah,
right.
we're just we're watching like you are.
we have discussed before selling STL files
Yes.
and downloadable files
Yes.
and things like that.
We have it's been a common discussion around here, and was to a point that we actually had some consultants come in. We had very in-depth discussions with them. I don't know. We've spent weeks talking.
We talked about it quite a bit.
So here was our personal takeaway. At the present time, the technology of printing at the current time doesn't allow us to get into the selling STL file business unless we're also going to get into the
Customer
service side of why this isn't printing on your printer.
Are you going to answer phone calls at midnight when someone says, I can't get this file to print?
Right.
I paid.
Oh, no, I just forward them to you. But yes.
Yeah, no.
But that's really, that was the problem. We're not going to get into the customer service business at this time. Now, that's primarily due to really a lack of evolution of the whole process. The technology is still not short sleeve bulletproof. The machines are still not, bulletproof. It's all at a very early stage of development. Mm-hmm. So looking into the future, what I see is you have modelers who are out there who are going to embracing the technology now and will ride that technology to the ultimate end. I also see people who just want to be a consumer. All I want to do is get my figure, get him on the board, get him into the game.
Instant gratification.
Instant gratification. I believe that at that point you have to look at the difference in the price points. Printing a model, it can be inexpensive. You can stack in the cube 6, 7, 8 figures into the build box and get that down, but you have to wait for it. The quality might not be there. You could also have file failure. So it becomes more of a labor of love. But to a modeler, that's invisible. Everything they print is it's a creation. It's a Sistine Chapel for them.
The hobby of the
hobbyist.
Yeah, the hobby of printing the figures. It's a hobby in and of itself.
So to answer the question, how we would prepare after we've done all of the meandering part, that's me practicing to be a politician.
Okay.
So to actually answer the question is that in the future, I would expect you would see from us is a similar approach that we have now, affordable figurines for consumers ready to go, and that we will move into the STL printing file for the modelist. And so it'll basically end up being a two-prong offering. Now, again, that said, we have to wait for a lot of other things actually to happen, i.e. that the whole process becomes much more stable, that the idea of printers, if you go back and look at even computers just years ago, the comedians still joke about, what was it, Eddie Izzard holding his printer up to the computer to show it, here's the printer, why can't you connect to it, okay? Mm-hmm. It is, with plug and play, it has become a whole different world.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what we're looking for here is plug and play. At that point, then yes, we have a lot, I don't know, hundreds, thousand STL files that we could start reprocessing and being able to push out for sale. But at the same time, that said, like we said before, we don't need calls in the middle of the night. We don't have a support staff of people to answer phones and go, why is this not printing on my printer? And all of this knowledge and database that goes with that particular aspect of it. So in the future, I see us doing the 3D and continuing to do what we want. That's the easiest way. That's the takeaway.
Thanks for the question, Michaela. Great question. Thank you very much.
Ron, you did an awesome job answering it.
Well, that's what I said. I'm letting you handle this one.
Thank you for your
That would mean this next one has to be Ron's?
No, this sounds like an Ed question, too.
I don't know.
You don't even know what it is.
Go ahead.
Or did I?
Right.
What is it, Justin?
The next question comes to us from a person by the name of, their username is Metal Addict 65.
Okay.
Hi, Metal Addict. Thanks for your question.
What advice would you give to people who are doing a Kickstarter that will have miniatures included?
Stop right now.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Really. See, that's an egg question. That's an egg question.
Yeah. But I think you had the best answer. Yes.
Yeah.
Run while you still have your sanity.
Yeah.
The one thing that we have looked at, or I've run across in talking with people that have had good Kickstarters or bad Kickstarters, the one thing that is a common theme, if they've included miniatures, is just do a miniature for whatever process you're going to do. Metal, resin, plastic injected, doesn't really matter. Do it from beginning to end for one piece, one item, at least, or one sprue, whatever you're going to do. Understand everything. what we see happen is a common factor, I guess, among a lot of people that have had problem getting their Kickstarter fulfilled or involved figures, was simply they would reach out to manufacturers. Let's get a bid from Reaper. We want metal figures. We want this many. What's your cost going to be? And yeah, sure, we'll shoot them a price, although, yes, we'll shoot them a price. So anyway, they take that information and put it in their spreadsheet. And they get postage rates, and they talk to some sculptors. We'll give you names of sculptors to talk to. There's plenty of them freelance on the web. So they'll get, this is how much to run the cost of the sculpting. If you want it analog, that's fine. You get a green figure, and that's a different production process. Or if you want it sculpted, again, that's a different production process. Once you have that information, it's easy to put it in the spreadsheet and come up with a number, and then you base your Kickstarter on that number. And that's where the problem is that it's not a realistic execution of the idea. There are so many variables all the way from beginning to end that can happen. Sculptors not turning their stuff in on time. The sculptor that you engaged actually drew up 3D models for you, but they don't output into a solid format. Or if they do into a solid format, they're not outputting into the format that you happen to need to match up with the person you've chosen or the company you've chosen for your production. Then you have the production timetable itself. If you've now changed it, if you've gone viral or you've gone anything like that, you've got to deal with that whole side of it. Then you get to one of the biggest problems we had when the first Kickstarter was on the shipping side. The weights involved, the way that the charts we put, they had the huge rate increase. But really, do one figure from beginning to end. That, I cannot stress that enough. That is the one thing they haven't done. And you will learn so much along the way that now actually allows you in a very realistic way to apply the number and the information on your spreadsheet. That'd be the one thing we swear by.
That one thing is a bunch of little things.
It's a lot of little things, but it's the one thing that gives you the education you need if you're going to deal with miniatures. And this is actually true with print, but it's impractical to print one book. You say, but it's not. Now you have print on demand. Go ahead and go through the whole thing, because inside of print there are so many variables that will deal there. The weight of the paper, the end product, it's just a myriad of selections. Again, at least do one book when you're done. Yeah. At least now you have some realistic information to apply. So that would be what I would say. Great. Ron, what would you add?
Like
you could also just say, Ed, that was a perfect answer, and I have nothing to add.
They're always perfect answers. Like you said, do the thing beginning to end. Something I saw very specifically, one company that ran a Kickstarter, and they got their files in from their digital artist, their sculptor, and once the files were printed, sure, they look pretty, they look great, but when they actually were turned into a different medium, the material that the consumer was supposed to get didn't really work that well.
Right.
It just because it looks great digitally on the screen doesn't mean it's going to make a great miniature.
Yes.
Digital art does not make a great miniature sometimes. So just be careful about that. There's a lot,
And be wary. I mean, this is more than just one thing, but I would be very wary of deadlines given to you by anybody. The sculptors, the production people, the pack, everything. You need to make sure you build in a lot of flexibility there, because real life sets in all the way across the board. Sculptors can get sick. Suppliers end up going out of business. That happened to the Ultimate Ice Chest. When he was quoted, he was ready to go. The blender portion was changed out, and he was they couldn't source a new one at that same price, and it threw his entire. It's now turned into, depending on where you read, one of the worst Kickstarter outcomes ever. So, yes, prior planning, that's just tons of it, but real world application all across the board.
Kickstarter's a minefield of things not to do.
There's 1,000 ways to die, and there's really only one way to win. And you're just navigating.
Reaper's been very fortunate. So.
We have been, but we've also made a metric ton of mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
We lost money on the first Kickstarter. Not a bunch, but we lost money on it. We didn't calculate in because we took so long that postage rate. That January, the postal department came out, shot the rates way up. Pow, done deal. There we just spent all this money. So, I like to tell them, beware of what you wish for, but prepare for what you wish for is really what you need to do. So
we could do an entire episode just on.
Actually, we could. Yeah. We should probably do that.
Maybe we'll
just on the planning and everything that goes involved, and of the different types.
Yeah. Well, thanks for your question, Metal Addict. Let's go to the next question.
And tell your addict friends or the addicts. Would that be your family? Tell them hi.
Yeah, the addicts. Yeah.
That was my shameless stupid thing.
Yeah.
All right. So next question comes from someone by the name of Jennifer Hinojosa.
Jennifer Hinojosa.
I believe it's Hinojosa.
Thanks for watching, Jennifer.
And
thanks for your question.
She says, I have always been curious, what type of camera / setup do you use to take pictures of minis?
Well, that's a Ron question.
Yeah, that's for me. I'll take that one, Justin. Well, the kind with the hole in the front that takes pictures. No, that's a Justin question.
Your phone.
I will try my best to answer this.
Yeah, see if you can't take that one, Justin.
Super technical. I know we keep taking all these questions from Ron. Ron hasn't done anything today. Basically, we actually shoot mostly Canon, but we use the Mark IV for most of our pictures and in some of our videos as well. We use a ring light and some small panel LEDs. It depends on what artistic look you're looking for. We use all kinds of backdrops, matte, marbled, some textured stuff. It really just depends on what you really want to do. Much like most photography, you can get some pretty good pictures, but if you're looking to get some really sharp, nice, stylistic pictures to work with, as much as people don't want to hear it, the more money you spend on a camera body typically and lens, the better quality you're going to get. That doesn't mean you can't get great quality with something that's cheaper, but typically speaking, it's kind of how that tends to go. But compositionally, you can still be sound, and you can still get some really quality pictures out of an iPhone. Just don't expect the post work to be as easy as with a RAW file from a professional camera or even a beginner professional camera.
All of the, as an example though, again, just for the iPhone, all of the Instagram Reaper Gallery Spotlight photos were shot with, an iPhone.
Absolutely.
There's a plug.
And actually, I would go as far as to suggest, if you like Canon, they have some entry-level stuff like the SL2 or the T7i that actually they're fairly inexpensive for their body, and their kit lens is actually pretty solid. This isn't, we're by no means endorsed by Canon here. I want to make that known. We do not endorse the Canon. We just really like Canon products. Works well for what we want.
The thing I think is unusual of your question, and thank you for your question, is if you look at all of the miniature companies and all of the photography work that's out there, I would think we were going to be the last company you'd be asking for advice. But thank you.
Yeah, no kidding.
Appreciate it.
Anyway, thank you for your question, Jennifer. And hopefully
thanks, Jennifer.
I answered that as well as I could. And
good answer.
Not more confused now than you were when you asked.
Good answer. I just hope they have something to look at while you're answering the question. Ed and I are just over here
I'm trying to catch up. I spent so much damn time talking.
You don't
definitely not you guys.
Catch up to me, for damn sure.
You guys ready for our last question?
Yeah, last question.
God, this?
That's the last question. Yeah. Did you ever imagine, as a child or teenager, that you would be part of
I imagined a lot as a child and a teenager.
a successful miniatures company, or semi-successful, or depending on your outlook, not successful at all? I don't. Whatever you guys want to.
No,
the point is, did you ever expect when you were young that you would be doing what you're doing right now?
I kind of, when I was a kid and I got into this, and like I mentioned one time, when the bug bit hard. I wanted to be work for a role playing company. I wanted to work for TSR. That's what I wanted to do. But working for Reaper has been extremely fulfilling and so much more fun than what I ever imagined. So even though it's not role playing per se, we are still sort of our own little hobby, but we do service the role playing industry with our products. So I've never really thought about working as a kid working for a miniatures company, but it's pretty darn close to what I imagined as a young kid. So. It's pretty cool. It's pretty neat.
Well, let's first off, what year would you say D&D was invented commercially? When was it commercially released? I remember
it was
seeing
Gygax,
copyrights
right?
like 78,
78, 79, something like that.
Right.
I think.
Was it Gygax or
get ready.
Technically, if you go to Chainmail first, and you had first edition.
If you look at I think the box sets. 76. I don't know. You know what? Here come the comments. You dummies don't even know what you're talking about.
Right. Well, in the
70s.
Yes.
70s. How about that?
Yes.
Just the 70s.
Yes. So I was still in high school, so it didn't even exist at that time to imagine it from that perspective. We discovered it in college, so afterwards, no, that was not Man, there's so many variations there to work about. It never has been like a daydream that you're going to go to sleep and then wake up and go, okay, there's my career path. I want to be a miniature mogul, as we call it, and jump into that industry or into the adventure game industry. In fact, I tell people this industry is about as unstable as trading in pig belly futures or whatever pork bellies, that kind of a thing. And really, this is the industry. If you ever want to make $1 million, start with $5 million. That's the easiest way to make $1 million.
Yeah.
So, yes and no, but I think it was more of, for me, once it started, it was just realizing that it could actually work and exist. That was more of the adventure starting was really what drove me more than anything.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, Ed, but didn't you go from being a rock star in a band, basically, to being a CPA to now painting minis?
Yeah, there's a
the
path.
A miniatures mogul.
I wouldn't say it was a rock
miniatures
star.
mogul.
A miniatures mogul. Yeah,
but you've kind of done virtually everything on the scale.
Yeah, I like to go try new things or just keep goofing around. Yes. But yeah, that would be left the accounting office or it came and went to Reaper. But that was actually not driven for the miniatures. That was driven because of the scry counters we were producing. We were all of a sudden booking orders for 50 and 60 and 70,000 units. Well, you weren't just going to do that with a midnight crew of a bunch of guys that sort of come in and hang out all night and make a few miniatures. And that was how it was operating at that time. So it had to sort of be, so I left the accounting world in. That would have been 93, 92, 93. Say, yeah. So.
Great. Thanks for the question.
Yeah.
All right. You guys want to take that cute little soldier guy off there and show us what you've been painting?
Oh, not really.
Not really. No, not really.
Oh, well, that's too bad. You're going to do it anyway. So.
Damn, Dad.
And then...
is he still peeking over the edge? He could be our final judge.
Yeah, he's going to take a look at these. Trust me, he's going to want to be far back.
So,
oh, that's looking good.
Please, come on.
Hey, I'm trying to participate.
I appreciate it.
There we go.
By the way, notice my giant snake is not green. Just want to point that out. My cobra is not green.
What color is it, Ron?
It's kind of a brownish color with a black wash. That's not the point. The point is it's not green. Ron DeBender will know exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh, well, if we're not all included in the inside
Well, are
joke,
cobras
let me tell
green?
you.
No, they're not. They tend to be sand colored, but whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
Anyway, so yeah.
I don't spend enough time looking at one if it's in the yard to worry about it.
Look who's here at the Reaper studio, Ed. It's John Overton.
How you guys doing?
Hi, John. How you doing? What brings you to the Reaper Live studios today?
I'm here to give you guys a tour.
Well. What do you do here at Reaper?
I am the production mold maker. I'm also in charge of all the casters. So a few years ago, the opportunity came to me to start taking over the tours here, and it was a big honor for me personally. So.
All right, and you've been doing this for a couple of years?
Yeah, I think almost 2 years now.
Well, let's see what it would be like to get a John Overton tour.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's go. We extended the building. We needed to make more space for the paint department as well. So this machine right here, her name is Audrey, and it's named after the Little Shop of Horrors plant, the Feed Me Seymour.
Feed me Seymour.
And we got this to start doubling the output of how much paint we can make. So this is a custom machine. It's the only machine of its kind. And it was custom made by a medical supply company up in Utah. They did a lot of 3D printing and stuff for us. So we worked with them for a long time, R&D, and fixed everything and got everything up and running. So it does everything in a circle. It puts the bottle in, it puts the agitator in, pumps quickly, pumps slowly, puts the nipple on, puts the cap on, and screws it. So it does everything except for labeling. These things right here are a light curtain, so if I put my hands in there, it'll shut the machine off. This is our OSHA guy's favorite machine. Over here we have the manual machine, or we call it Tiamat or Mauser car. We use kidney dialysis pumps. To pump the paint, we use medical grade hoses since they are silicone lined, they're non-stick. Since our paint is water based, it pumps the paint just like it would blood, so we use these kidney dialysis machines to pump it. And we can just reuse the hoses since they're non-stick, we just wash them out. We are the only miniature company who makes their own paint. So Yeah, I always say it's by painters for painters. But that's not our actual slogan. That's just what I say. Over here in this corner is where Anne's been here for 15 years. She's a professional painter. She's the one who made all of our paint line and everything like that. She has her pigment wheels and her mixing wells here. So she makes all the paints and stuff here. So sometimes when a lot of you guys get your orders, there's some random samples in it, and sometimes when she's R&Ding some new colors or something like that, and she doesn't like quite how it turns out, she'll just bottle that up in like a 300 bottles or something like that, just a small batch. So, and then we just throw it into random internet orders. So sometimes when you get your internet orders, it says sample. It's probably a color that she was testing and didn't work out the way she planned. So.
Wow, John, thanks for the tour. That was awesome.
That was very good.
There must be more to see.
Yeah, there's a ton. The building's huge, so.
How was Audrey?
That's probably why our turnover is so high, is because she keeps eating all of our employees.
that would explain the police.
I
Okay.
see. So how do we get a tour?
Tours at reapermini.com. If you get into the Dallas area, email us, schedule a time. We'll be here for you. It is definitely worth the time.
What's that email address again?
Tours at reapermini.com. You're
right.
testing me, aren't you?
I am.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's let these minis dry. So make sure to follow us at www.reapermini.com.
YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Like us, follow us, whatever. Just get there and have fun.
All right. We'll see you next week. John, thanks again.
Thank you much, sir.
I had
It
a
was
blast.
awesome.